I have spent the entire summer trying to get my kids to read more, and they're just acting so annoying as if they've developed some kind of allergy to books.
This is disgusting.
I mean, it might be because, it's easier to read during term time when school is sort of making you do it. But I thought maybe one way I could try and bribe them back into reading is to make some really beautiful bookmarks for them. And also, actually, I'm really in my reading era right now. I really love going to the library and getting a physical book to read and hold and smell. So even if the kids don't want these, they are a lovely gift to myself. I've got a really quick and easy version of this bookmark and a more extra version. So let me show you how I made it. I will share the Design Space project on my profile for this bookmark, so you can find it there. If you want to make the super quick version of this, then hide the layer, which is for your name, and just cut these out of card. They obviously won't last as long as if you were to cut them out of leather, which is what I'm going to show you later. But, it still works as a very lovely bookmark, and, it takes hardly any time to do it. If you do have a bit more time, then double click on the text box and type in your name or the name of whoever you're making this for. And then I used some nice metallic pens in my Cricut machine when I made these, and the contrast between a nice bold color cardstock and the metallic pen just looks really lovely. If you do want to go slightly extra, then instead of using a pen, why not use your foiling tool and some foil transfer sheets for the name? Personally, I wouldn't bother doing this on cardstock because if you're a reader and you're using your bookmarks, they're going to get damaged while you're reading and you're going to end up throwing it away. So I would actually save your foil for my most extra version of this bookmark, which is to use faux leather. I used my original Cricut maker, so I made sure to get hold of some faux leather which was paper thin. So just make sure you're not using a leather that's too thick. I'll put a couple of links in the description below of options you might want to use. I've used a really beautiful forest green metallic leather, and then I foiled it with red foil, and then I also tried it with gold foil. And I actually love them both. They look gorgeous. Maybe the red one is a slightly nicer contrast of colors. If you're not sure how to cut leather on your Cricut machine, because this is a paper thin leather, it's actually basically the same as cutting cardstock. Your choice of mat doesn't really matter. You could use a fabric mat, but you can also use a light grip mat. The more that I've used my Cricut machine, the more I've learned that the mats, they're quite interchangeable, especially as you're using one more and it gets less sticky, then you can start using it with more delicate materials. So if you are going to cut your bookmark out of the leather, then you could use the fabric mat. You could also use the light grip mat if it's a new one, and the standard grip also is fine. Just place your leather onto the mat as normal and then place your foil on top. If you need some tips on, how to use the foiling tool, I have a whole separate video on that. So I would suggest watching that one because it's a much more deep dive than I'll be doing here. Then just load your foiling tool into the machine. I used the bold tip just because I wanted to make sure that the words really popped on the leather. And once the transfer is done, remove the foil and swap in your fine point blade and allow it to do the cuts. I did find with this project I had to rerun the cuts because some of the bookmarks that I was cutting hadn't quite cut all the way through. So once the cut is finished, don't unload your mat and just check, use maybe like the weeding tool and just see if all the edges of your leather bookmark have cut properly. If not, then I would take out the fine point blade and leave clamp B empty. Don't put back in the foil tool. And before you unload, just press the play or the C button and allow it to rerun. It will try and do the foil transfer first, but it won't realize that there's no blade in there, so don't worry about that. Just let it kind of go through the motions. And then when it prompts you to load in the fine point blade, then put in the blade and it will do the cut once more, and that should get any missing cuts or anywhere where it's not gone completely through the material. That should fix the problem. One bit of advice I would have is once they're cut, to grab a bit of light sanding paper and just sand off the edges of your leather just to make it a little bit cleaner, because obviously it is a fabric, so it gets a bit frayed on the edges. These would make such wonderful gifts to give to the bibliophiles in your life. I chose to gift myself and I'm very happy with it. Let me know in the comments how it goes if you do choose to make this project. Otherwise, I will catch you next time. Until then, happy crafting!